Okay, welcome to today's webinar, the U.S. Bank CAB Evolution, 10 years of customer engagement, innovation, and value. Quick notes on housekeeping. We are recording the webinar and we'll send you the recording after. Ask your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat, and we'll get to them time permitting or towards the end. So we're going to do a quick poll, then introductions, and then we're going to hear from Bradley Matthews of US Bank, all about their CAB program. Quickly about Ignite, we're only dedicated to designing, managing, and facilitating customer advisory boards and partner advisory boards across the world, really. We've completed over 300 engagements, and many leading B2B companies use the industry best practices that we've developed. Quick poll, as we always do. Let me launch the poll. Okay, here we go. So what is the status of your CAB or PAB program? Don't have a program, haven't started one, trying to launch, existing program on hold, program in progress, or expanding the program and adding new boards. I'll give it another 20 seconds here. Just let us know if you haven't responded yet. Okay. 5 more seconds. Get your answers in. Okay, let me end the poll and share the results. So a majority have the program in progress. Some have a program on hold or are expanding, and then the rest of you are trying to launch a program. Thank you for that. So I'm going to hand it over to the president of Ignite Advisory Group, Eyal Danan. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. It's a pleasure to be with all of you on this webinar. And I'm excited to actually share the stage with my dear friend, Bradley. We've known each other for over a decade, and Bradley is a senior executive with US Bank, a senior vice president. He's heading product management and marketing for the middle market. And as you probably all know, US Bank is a storied institution with 160 years of history, one of the largest banks in the United States, managing hundreds of billions of dollars. So Bradley, thank you very much for joining the webinar and talking about your advisory boards program.
My pleasure. Very excited to be here.
Very good. Why don't we start with, obviously it's been a decade. It's a long time. If you can go through your journey over the last decade or so, that would be great.
Sure. So I'll take kind of 2 points. One is, I kind of pride myself in my LinkedIn profile as being the unbanker. So just a little bit of my personal journey, which I think will fit into the CAB journey as well. When I was growing up, my dad was the stereotypical banker, and just, suit and tie, gray suit and tie, every day, all day banker. And I knew that I would never wanted to be a banker. I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to be specifically a roboticist. Went to university in mechanical engineering, computer science, graduated, and then started consulting in financial services in software, so that's okay. And then went to American Express for about 12, 13 years, did a nonprofit and a startup between, and then joined US Bank for the last 13 years. And so I say that I do work at a bank, but I am absolutely not a banker. And it really just, to me, is the mindset that I still did not want to do the job that my dad did, but working at a bank and doing, customer-focused innovation, product development, driving the connection to customers and solving their problem is absolutely what excites me. And so that's been my personal journey. And I think that's where we tie into the CABs. When I joined US Bank, I came in and, of course, as we all do, need to prove yourself, prove the value. And one of the things that I noticed is that the US Bank did not have an advisory board for their customers. And they really, in general, were not listening a lot other than kind of one-on-one with the account management team. But we weren't building that relationship to test our vision, our strategy, and our approach and get that detailed feedback. So that was my big recommendation, was to advance that. We launched with our large market just about 12 years ago, so just about a year after I joined. A couple years after that, we started up the middle market CAB, and I've now run that, as you said, for the last 10 years. And we've started up a couple other CABs as well, focused on our emerging market, focused on our agent banks that work through our products to their customers. And all of those are just serving different customers and getting insights that drive our strategy day to day.
Excellent, very inspiring. So I'm wondering, obviously, it's been 12, 13 years of advisory board work. From your perspective as an executive, how did the programs evolve throughout the years?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I want to start first when I shared the idea, the reaction to it. So I was in an all product and marketing meeting, let's say 60, 70 individuals, and is launched it. A senior executive, the head of all of our sales and account stood up and said, "This is the most important initiative we have for next year." So it immediately had traction and support. I saw a number of people, almost a third, had programs on hold. And I'll speak to value throughout this hour, because for me, getting that buy-in and support was really important to keep it running through this long. And I think that might be a component of, I'm not sure the challenges you have and why it's on hold, but for me, it was never a risk of the programs being on hold because the value kept being very clear to our customers and to all of our executives. So I talked about our board in particular, the middle market. I'll go through here just a broad overview of what the board is, its makeup, et cetera, and then speak a little bit to its evolution because it did evolve a few different times. One, as Eyal said, I am the executive sponsor for it and have been since its inception. And we're really focused now on the strategic insights. Are we going in the right long-term direction? Are we providing the right value to our customers today and tomorrow? But where we started was much more tactical. And so I'll come back to that in a little bit. We target a 2-year duration for board members, but we do have several that have been on since the inception. So of the 15 CAB members that we currently have, I think about 6, 7, so nearly half of them have been there since the beginning. And there's also always a balancing act between the tenure and providing new ideas and insight and feedback. And we do always vet that at the end of each meeting. And I'd say several of our CAB members do as well. In fact, at our last meeting that we just had, one of our first members said, "Hey, I've been here a long time. If my ideas are getting stale and you want to get somebody else, I would completely understand." But they're really always coming in with new, fresh perspectives, and just having that longevity and history with them. They know the journey that we have been on. They know where we're going, and we get, I think, even far more value out of it from having that long tenure. But recruiting is always a challenge. It's something where if you haven't seen this right, you should always be recruiting, and it's absolutely true. You always have to do it because you invariably have members that have conflicts, or they need to drop, they switch companies, whatever it might be, including just not being a good fit. And you have to make sure that you maintain good numbers so that you can have that varied number of ideas. In the facilitation, we always have that external view. We're coming in as an independent consultant, and actually Ignite has done this for us. They do all the prep facilitation, which has been fantastic, support us. And our schedule is we have 1 meeting every 9 months, and then we have 3 meetings outside of that each quarter that are virtual. so we can go through and always have a good touch base of what our deep dive was in person, the changes and evolutions we've made since we've met, taking their feedback into account, and then again, just making sure that we know where we're going. As I mentioned, we really migrated and evolved from a more tactical to strategic. And thankfully, most of our members were able to make that transition, because you really would want to get members who are focused on the strategy at their companies and yours, to make sure that you're aligned, that are aligned in the types of background, thoughts, perspectives, and their ability to vocalize them comfortably. It is really important. And thankfully, we've done a great job in both attracting and retaining those members that can share it. We started tactical because we had some significant challenges with some core products, and we wanted to get very specific feedback around them. Is this the right feature? Is this the right function? Is it easy to use? Whatever it might be. So we spent a lot of time on that for the first probably 2 plus maybe 3 years. But then we started evolving into seeing the real value and getting insight into where should we go next. What are the big problems that you are facing that we could potentially solve for you, and get us ahead of the market, and make sure that we are always providing that long-term value. So that's where we made the pivot to more the strategy side. And so this is where we would bring in concepts of where we thought a new product might be in a few years. We would bring in experts who are talking about just problems. We don't have solutions, but just let's focus in on what the problem is, the challenge, and then we would take it back and start working on how we might solve it. And so those were really critical to our success in that pivot, and actually drove a number of new products and partnerships over the past several years with them. And the last, again, we'll speak of this as we get to the value, the benefits that they get. And I would say the biggest one, and I think it's appropriate to be first, is just the networking and collaboration. And this is true. It's highlighted for the peers, where they really get unique insights. It is quite often where members say, I'm having this challenge, and we always want customers to speak first, and they will. One of them inevitably will come in and say, I had that same problem 2 years ago, a year ago. I'm working on it now. And they can really help each other solve and address their own problems, really with outside the bank. But we get the benefit of understanding that is a problem. Here's the approach that they took. And is that something that we can help solve on a broader basis? Obviously, they get to influence our strategy, which I've spoken to. And the other key thing is proving that value. So that's why it's critical at each meeting. We start by, what are the updates? Last time we met, you told us that this was a problem for you. We've explored it, we've solved it, we're working on it, or we've decided that it wasn't an area that we wanted to focus on. And that's okay too. We don't have to do everything that they recommend, but it is critical that we close that loop and they understand that their feedback is driving action internally. And then the last one is access to our executive team. We have our president, the head of relationship management there, head of product, myself, obviously. And it really is the ability for them to have 3 solid days with that team to really drive the relationship with the bank and themselves. That drives value for them because they can always tap on us to help them, whether it's at the meetings or outside the meetings. It drives value for us, higher retention, relationship, growing the programs. All of that is based on the relationships that we are building. And so those are really some of the key factors that have built the board and our evolution for the last 10 years.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this detailed overview. I would like to drill down on the value aspect. I know that you mentioned quite a few times that the value for you is obvious, right? And what I've seen in my professional experience, and Ignite has been in business for 20 years now, it's almost like 2 camps of people, right? There are those that get it, right? They say, we know it's valuable. We don't need detailed Excels and analytics to prove it.
Yeah.
And then there are those that are doing extensive ROI studies, capturing every data feed, every signal, Obviously, from my perspective, it's obviously easier to work with executives that just get it. They know it's important. They don't need to be convinced every year. But out there are many companies that are still requiring some form of an ROI or what is the value. What's your personal take, and what would be your recommendation for, other marketeers or product managers that need to show value? Interested in your feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think it'd be very hard to put an ROI on it. I mean, a hard number ROI. But the value is evident, as I've said. And I think, one of my biggest pieces of advice is just to do it, right? Get a cab up and running, get the executives in the room, and that value will become extremely obvious very quickly. And I'll share that we always had support from our president. But in the first meeting is where it became concrete for him, the value. We were in a meeting and we were, as I said, talking about a solution at a very tactical level. It was our web management tool for cards and reporting, etc. And we had a breakout of all the challenges. And they gave two pieces of feedback that were hard to hear, but really a turning point for our president in terms of value. The first was a very honest opinion of just blow it up and start over. Which was very hard for the product manager over that product and for the whole team that was there. It was a product that had been around for a long time, but it really just become too bloated, too old, too powerful, and just tried to do everything verse one. And so that immediate value of, wow, we are really missing the mark, became evident. And for the next several years, we spent a considerable amount of time, and we knew that that was a challenge, but not that black and white of a challenge, of revising that approach, making significant investments in changing it, and have seen the results from it. The other comment was around the same solution was, it would be great if you had a mobile app for this. And it's 10 years ago, so that's reasonable. You might not have had a mobile app. And they all agreed immediately to, oh, yes, that would make it so much easier because you have people that are on lunch and they have to run back to the office for these critical things. So just a mobile app would be fantastic. And so we pulled the room and everybody invariably raised their hand. Yes, that would be valuable. We had had a mobile app for 2 years. And so that was eye-opening for our president and the relationship team and ourselves that clearly there was a disconnect, that members were getting this value or missing the value, but we had solved this problem and they didn't know about it. And so that was a very quick win for us to go in and be able to pivot and make sure that every customer knew about it, that every customer was using it and gaining that value. And since the mobile tool was developed far more recently, the user experience was far better, more targeted to the key functions they need. So that actually solved a lot of the problems of blow it up and start over. So in that first meeting, having our president there and get that honest feedback that one, the product had missed a mark, and two, there's another product that solved a lot of the pain, but clients were not aware of it, was enlightening. And I think that was the moment where he instantly knew, yes, we have to do this. This is value for life, and we have to retain this CAB.
Excellent example. I want to move over to engagement. As an executive sponsor, how do you, Bradley, and you have your own unique way of doing it. You talked about being an banker, and you have a very easy way of communicating and creating long-term relationships with clients. If you can share some of the ways that you are engaging with members throughout the year, that's, not only in the meeting, because that's a key challenge for many companies. How do you keep the members engaged?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a few things. It starts with, higher level, the board, how do we keep the agenda and so on, members engaged holistically? And then I'll speak to kind of the personal approach. One, we target this very much around what their needs are and their challenges. So we have a pre-interview prior to each meeting, one of your best practices we learned about long ago. And that really drives our agenda. So they know when they come in that we're going to be addressing items that are specifically important to them. It is not just the bank talking for 3 days or selling for 3 days. So they know that they're getting value there. The other one, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, is we connect the dots for them. So whenever they do give us feedback, we close the loop and say, oh, you gave us this feedback in the last meeting last year, whatever the time frame is, and here's what we have done with it. So again, they know that they are engaged because what they do matters. It is changing the course that the bank is taking to solve their problems and their peers. And last is just that focus on networking amongst the peers and executives, that really drives a lot of the engagement. And I think that's part of it personally as well is, I just as any account manager or salesperson would, you are building those personal relationships with each of the members. So for many of them, I am now, very good friends on a personal level with. I know about their aspirations, their challenges, both in work and beyond work, and have been able to build upon those. And it is a homecoming for us to get to these annual CAB meetings, where we can really check in and understand, what's happened in the last 9 months with you? How's your son, daughter, family, college, whatever it might have been that they were going through. So that really creates a lot, is just that personal engagement, because you have so much time with them and you want to make that investment. And what's up on the slide here is another key one that, the CAB meetings, they're long. They are a lot of work. They are exhausting for ourselves and the members. So you always want to break them up and have something fun. And this is actually from our first meeting that we had in San Antonio 10 years ago. And excuse me, we partnered with a local nonprofit that built bikes for local youth that didn't have them. And so all of the group broke up into teams, a mix of customers and people from the bank, to go in and work on this activity. They said it was not a competition, but everybody was very competitive, so it ended up being a competition. And then we had the end of it, a true competition, again, more of that team building component, where, as you can see, the center picture, who is our president, he's now left the bank, retired, but that is our president, Jeff Jones, on the tricycle, and we raced the tricycles. And just the pivot from Jeff, who, like my dad, was the stereotypical banker, on a bike, racing it, on a tricycle, racing it, in dress shoes, leather, soles, all that, was amazing fun. And it really set the tone for the next 10 years of, this is the type of engagement. We're dropping our guard. We're not the stuffy. We are all one together as part of this family. And let's work hard and, get the value out of it for everybody, but we can have fun at the same time.
Perfect. That was a great exercise. Quite memorable.
Yeah.
Good. Before I mean, there's a lot of questions here from the audience, but I wanted to ask you, looking at the last 12, 13 years, the middle market for the last 10 years, what advice would you give based on your experience? Now you've been in the trenches, you are a CAB expert right now.
Yeah.
What advice would you give other members of the product marketing community that are looking either to build a CAB from scratch or to evolve one to have that same longevity and value that the US banks advisory boards deliver?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I've commented on a couple of these, so I'll highlight them and then expand as well. The first, as I mentioned, is just do it. I know it's really hard. It's a lot of work. It's a threshold that you have to get to. But that first meeting will show the value to your members and to anybody in your organization that might be on the fence or questioning what is the value. So I think that's the first one, is just find a way to have it be done, because that will support you. The next is, as I mentioned, focusing on the customers and the value that they get. If you go in and just have a presentation of your new products and so on for 2-3 days, you'll lose them. They're not gaining value from it. So make sure that you take into consideration for the agenda everything that they are facing. What are their challenges, their obstacles? And some of those may have no value for you. One that we do pretty regularly because it's a high value item for them is just an economic update. We invariably get those requests. The clients get extreme value from it, but we already have those insights. It's usually one of our economists or one of our partners. So it is a service we provide to them. It's value that they derive. And then it allows us to make sure that we can put in some topics that are more about us. Certainly those are the minority, but we can go in and have a topic that we focus in on of here's a challenge we as a bank are facing. What do you recommend, or what do you see from your perspective? How might we solve it? So focusing on their value. The other one is, when we started our journey, one of the first things I did is to build up the case for having a CAB was going online and searching. And thankfully, one of your white papers came up. So I was able to use that. And then, of course, got a sales call from one of your salespeople, which no surprise. And it was really through that relationship that I got into training that you used to host on how to build a CAB, how to host a CAB. And it became very obvious to myself and a colleague who was there that the amount of work to get it off the ground was substantial. So I know that that is not an option for everyone, but that was really one of the best things that we did, was starting with you. Our vision was that you would come in for a couple of years and help us build it, recruit, get that rhythm down, and then we would take over. And here we are 13 years later, just now at that point where we have enough boards that are out there, enough focus that we are able to hire a full-time person internally to manage those CABs and be able to, take that in-house. So, it's one where you have all of the experience, all of the background and best practices, and that's what set the stage for our success. And then you driving that continually and helping us evolve through the last 13 years across all the boards has really been incremental or instrumental to our success.
Thank you very much, Bradley. We appreciate the business and the trust. Let me go to some of the questions. The first one is really relating to how do you handle confidential information? One of the attendees says, we're a public company. Obviously, US Bank is a Fortune 500 firm. How do you handle sharing confidential information? And then another attendee is asking about the same thing, but from the member perspective. So let's say two members are in the construction industry or in healthcare. How do you handle that?
Yeah. So we do a few things. One, when we're recruiting, we work really hard to make sure that we don't have conflicting interest between our members. So that's the first one, is start with recruiting to make sure that if you have one that's already in industry, our best practices, we reach out to them first as an existing CAB member, saying that we are considering another member in their industry, and tell them the company and say, what do you think? And generally, they are fine with it. They're a different region, it's a different specialty, whatever. It might seem like a competitor to us, but in their mind's eyes, it's separate. And then, of course, with the new member, we tell them we already have this company, and does that cause a conflict for them? So they know coming in that who the members are, and they won't have really direct competition that they have to be mindful of. Two, as we share in meetings, everything is still confidential. We don't want them to share insights that would betray information, insights that they have and other organizations might be able to leverage. So we always guard against that and make sure that they're cognizant of what they're sharing. And then the last one is, again, a best practice of yours, follow the Chatham House rules. So in the meeting, everything that members say and that the bank says as well is in the recording. It is simply a member said, one of the bank team said. And so there's no attribution to any individual. That also helps to protect any of the materials that come out of the board that could potentially be more sensitive in terms of a direction or challenge or something. But because the loss of attribution, it is simply something that someone in our group faced. And so the pressure is far less there.
Excellent. Thank you. Another question from one of the attendees is, how do you get the members to attend a meeting every 9 months? How do you get them to actually come to a meeting? Obviously, they have to take time from their busy schedules, from their families, from, going back to work with, hundreds of emails and this and that. It's a major commitment. So how are you succeeding in doing it?
Yep. Well, I'll also share that our large market, they meet in person every 6 months and then have 2 virtuals off cycle from that. And they have also been extremely successful in doing that. So there is a path. And I'd say that the few key things is, one, the value. If the members know the value, know that we are reacting to it, they are incented to come. The other part to your point is valuing their time. We do, even though very long days, we've got some pretty generous breaks throughout the day. So we are very strict on the no device policy, because if someone's in the meeting looking at the phone, working on it, there's always going to be that fire drill. We're not going to get the attention, the value, and they won't get the value from us. So we work in, long half-hour, 45-minute breaks throughout the day, long lunch, so that they have that time to check in, to deal with those emergencies, and make sure that when they're in the room with us, they're focused. Say the other one is, this is key, is we pay for their travel. I'm not sure if that's something that all of your boards do or not, Ayal, but it's one that we have elected to do because we get the value from it. And that would be a challenge if we had to ask members to do this, to travel, and then the travel on their dime. I think that would be a far harder conversation with them than if we are taking that burden, the financial burden, off of this. And the last one is, as we're recruiting, we are very clear on the commitment. This is the expectation. We have these prep calls. They're about an hour before each meeting. We have the meetings that are about 3 days, 9 months a year, every 9 months. We have these virtual meetings 3 times a year. They're about an hour, hour and a half. So they know coming in that they are making that commitment. And I'd say in our history of 10 years gosh, I haven't counted how many members we have had, let's say north of 50, 60 members through that time, kind of losing a few each year and replacing them, that there's only been a couple that I can think of that really were not able to make that commitment. And that's just a conversation with them of, hey, this is more than we thought. And so they decided to move off, and that's fine, right? It's something we know we're asking a lot. We believe that they are getting a lot, and certainly we are, but we have to be forthright and support them. And so making sure that they know exactly what they're signing up for and supporting them along the way would be the last component.
So a dual commitment on both ends, right?
Yes.
It works both ways. Another question, hopefully not too many questions to you, Bradley.
Great.
What criteria do you use to select who is going to be on the board? I mean, what type of person are you looking to become a member of one of the boards?
Yeah. For us, it starts with a few criteria. So one, because ours are broken up by segment, which is generally size of company, middle market, large markets, our emerging middle market, et cetera. That's just, are they in that segment within the bank? Within that, though, is a pretty large scale. Our middle market is anywhere from 100 million to $1 billion. So we try to narrow that down even further and try to get members that are in the 600 to 750 million. And some of our members are over, some are under, but we try to use that as a criteria so that their problems are like for like similar with other members. It would be very challenging if we had a CFO of a $50 million company and a CFO of a $1.5 billion company. Their problems are nowhere similar. So having them like for like in their company size and then their role. And that's generally a title, but not always the title. It's really, what are your responsibilities? What do you own? And making sure that we're trying to get like for like in their roles and responsibilities, even if their titles may be slightly different. And then probably the most important, that's just the criteria to get the list that we would start recruiting, is really their personality. You want someone who is going to engage and not shy away from feedback. We've had, I said at the beginning, one of the first points of feedback was you need to blow this up and start over. That takes a certain personality to be able to comfortably share that. And you want that. You absolutely want a customer who says that, and then in the same breath says, and I'm here to help you support your journey to solve it. Because you don't want someone who's just going to be there, complain about everything, but not work with you to solve it. So that personality, ensuring that they're going to provide that candid feedback, that they're going to be there for the journey as we fix it and build the future, and that they're going to fit in with the broader group of peers is paramount to the value, the networking, everything that they get, and the value that we get out of it.
Perfect. Couldn't agree more, right? It's a journey, right? It's a journey that has a shared future between US Bank and the members, and that's the way to look at it, not as a short-term transactional event or summit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last question for you. Do you include multiple people from the same company, let's say a treasurer and director of AP?
Yeah, we have not. We have always limited to that one person. An invitation is specific to a company and then that person within the company. So if they were to move on and nominate their replacement or something else, it does not work that way because, again, we don't know how their role has changed, their personality, everything else. So it is very specific to a person in the organization, and it is just one. I could potentially see value in growing that, but then it would have to be everybody because we're paying for travel. That increased the cost. It just doubles our cost. And I'm not sure that it would be as effective having those multiple layers. But what could be valuable, and this is something we've talked about, is there are different type boards that we have. We have the strategic that I've talked to, what we evolved to, but we do have tactical. And we will occasionally need still feedback on tools and processes we have. And so we will ask our CAB to basically nominate someone in the company who is your day-to-day manager of this tool, this process, whatever it might be. And then we will host a virtual session with them to get that level of feedback. So we can still get multiple viewpoints with the one board. If it's something that we needed on an ongoing basis, what I would recommend internally and would recommend here is have a different CAB. If we had one that was very IT focused or we needed it, which we're definitely looking at, we would want the CIO, CTO, someone coming in who has that perspective. But we're really looking for a broad financial picture. And so that's what we're getting with the kind of CFO, director of accounting, whatever it might be. They generally are the titles that serve what we need.
Very good. Bradley, our time is almost up. Before we're going to turn it back to Tatiana, I would like really to thank you for your unwavering support of the advisory board initiatives, your leadership, your personal commitment to making it happen. Without a strong executive sponsor, it's almost impossible to have a successful advisory board. So thank you very much for your guidance, your feedback, your insights. Thank you for all the attendees. And I'm turning it back to Tatiana.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Bradley. Someone wrote, thank you, was a very informative session. Indeed, it was. Thanks, Eyal. And stay tuned for the replay and future webinars. And thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.